And we're live once again. Tuesday, the 29th of May, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we start. I'm Goran Radanovic. Welcome to the live stream of Finish First Financially, where we discuss different types of finance topics and with the aim, obviously, to grow these live streams to the point where we have people calling in and discussing their financial woes, the struggles that they're going through. That's pretty much my goal with this live stream. Well, with every live stream, but I'd obviously like to get to that point as soon as possible. And when we do, we'll do live streams that are much longer than an hour. Now I've kind of reduced them to half an hour to get straight to the point, and we're going to do that right now. Yesterday, we discussed the two factors causing your financial distress. That was part one. We're going to do part two today. And, we had the article yesterday that I had read, which is the two factors causing you your financial distress. So you can check that out on finishfirstfinancially.com. Obviously, everything that I say is not financial investment advice. It's just purely for entertainment purposes. These are my experiences that I've written, and they might help you in your life if you choose to implement them. It's up to you, obviously. Yesterday I read this article, and I also spoke about status and comfort. So those were the two factors. If you missed yesterday's broadcast, but because it was half an hour, it just went by so quickly, and I spoke about the main things. You got the gist of it. Obviously, there's still more to talk about when it comes to these two causes. There's several things that can cause you. Poor financial decisions can obviously strip you of your savings. But at the core of poor financial decisions is usually status and comfort, because this is how it's motivating your decision-making process. Yesterday, I spoke about how you look to others for influence about the things that you're going to buy. You see your friends, they've got nice things, so you want to keep their friendship by being on the same level as them, and you do that through material possessions in most cases, to show your value. But because you can't afford most of those material possessions, you use borrowed money. And to maintain that lifestyle, to keep up with your friends, to kind of portray that image of success, you need to maintain that lifestyle, preferably even go up levels. And in most cases, that requires you to take out more and more debt. And that's just a hole that you keep digging deeper and deeper. And until eventually, you can't even take out. There's no more line of credit for you. You've probably maybe even reached a point where you're not even able to make the monthly minimum payments. And you're in a world of trouble. That's one of the biggest reasons that people are living paycheck to paycheck, because they're motivated by status and comfort. So the key takeaway from this live stream is, regardless of what we're discussing about financial mistakes, whether you decided to buy a nicer car, or you are now getting a gadget, or you're moving to another neighborhood that's more expensive. At the core, those are just the weeds popping out. These so-called mistakes. But at the core, the biggest mistake is that you are driven by status and comfort. And as I say, the biggest change that you can make, which it's exactly what happened to me. Everything that I'm telling you is what I went through, is that you let go of status and you become uncomfortable. So when I became homeless, I lost everything. The best thing that ever happened to me was that I stopped worrying about what people were going to think about me. I just didn't care. I was more concerned about impressing myself. And I knew the only way to impress myself is by getting rid of debt, building up my savings, and having investments, because there is nothing cooler than being debt free, having savings, and having investments. That's a much better position to be in than up to your eyeballs in debt because you want to impress somebody at a traffic light, or your friends, with your car, which is financed. You don't even own it. The bank owns it. So I focused on myself. I focused on getting out of debt, on building savings, on investments. And because I didn't care what other people thought about me, I just let go of what people were going to say, what people were going to think. I was driven by financial freedom. That was my motivation for all my financial decisions. So what does that mean? It means that if I want to buy something, my thought process, if I'm a spender, is okay, well, I mean, I want it, I need it, I think I need it. It's going to take me up a level and I'm going to be more comfortable by having it. So let me just get it. That's the thought process of a spender. They're impulsive, they want things, and if they can't afford them with cash, they finance them with credit. Once I let go of what people thought about me, once I stopped caring about that and I wanted financial freedom and I became a saver, my thought process was, do I really need this? And if I do really need this purchase, isn't it wiser to find a cheaper alternative? I still want good quality, but I can go down a bit with regards to the aesthetics. It doesn't have to be that flashy as long as it's good quality, but cheaper. Is it possible for me to delay this purchase just a bit so that I get more money? And if I really need to buy this, first of all, I'm going to buy it with cash, absolutely with cash. I'm not going to finance it because that means I can't afford it if I'm financing it. And the more savings that I've got, if I really need to dip into the savings, the less I'm going to be affected by it. So if I buy it with cash, I still need to have significant savings after this purchase because I don't want to be in a tight spot. I don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. And if my income was to stop and I buy this thing that I want, how badly am I going to be affected? And this is the thought process. Now think about what I just said as opposed to what I spoke about when I was a spender, the thought process there. Completely, vastly different types of mindsets and, the process that you go through to kind of decide if you really want this purchase and the best way to go about it. So those things are crucial. That's one of the main things that happened to me when I was homeless, is that I just completely let go of other people's opinions and I focused on myself and achieving financial freedom. Let me just quickly change the view. So that's status. Now, what about comfort? How is that a hindrance to financial freedom? I think status and comfort really go hand in hand because once you try and reach status, in most cases, you also achieve comfort because, your fancy car gives you that status, and it's also comfortable to be in those warm leather seats, to have that fancy sound system in the car, as opposed to taking the bus, using public transportation. So that's comfort, that you really achieve comfort in most cases also when you try and reach certain level of status. And comfort can also be a subscription to a video streaming service. Because you feel comfortable, you cuddle up to a blanket and you watch your movies, and that's comfort. And then for me to say, well, no, unsubscribe from that video streaming service. You're like, oh, no, but I mean, these movies are awesome, and it's only like $7 or $8. I mean, it's nothing, it's a small thing. But you know what? $10 here, $50 there, $100 there that you're saving adds up eventually. And more importantly than the actual amount is the habit that you're forming. Because when you react in a way that where you say, no, but it's just a few dollars. That's already the mindset of a spender. Whereas a saver who's truly committed to this process, forgetting about status, forgetting about comfort, getting rid of those things because they're preventing you from reaching financial freedom, the saver is going to think, well, even though it's only $10 or $15, first of all, it's going to add up if there are several expenses. And second of all, I'm forming a habit. I'm forming a specific mindset. I'm asking my mind to look for ways for me to save money with every expense and possibly eliminate the ones that I don't need. And because of that, I'm going to develop this mindset of a saver. I'm going to prove to myself, to the universe, to whoever, that I can manage $10, and then I'm going to manage 100, and I'm going to manage 1,000, and then $10,000 and more and more and more. So I need to start with the small amount, manage that so that I can, once I get more money, a significant amount of money, I'm not going to be worried about having that much money and losing it because I know how to manage it. So prove with the small amounts that you are an effective money manager so that we can trust you with bigger amounts. It's not the other way around. You don't now just get $100,000 that we trust you with. You're a financial manager of a company, and prove yourself with $100,000 so that we can then give you $1,000. No. You start with the small amounts first, and then we go up the mountain and give you bigger amounts because you've proven to be an effective money manager with the small amounts, and you've just built that up. So why wouldn't we trust you with bigger amounts? One of the things that I find very, very linked, I mean, it is at the core of status and comfort, is actually what I've spoken about, living your life for other people's expectations. Actually, that's really what it comes down to. When you care about what other people think, what other people say about your material possessions, your lifestyle, you're effectively living life for other people. And most people who are struggling financially are motivated to purchase certain items because they care so much about what others think. And that's really part of status and comfort. And another part, which I've seen not just from my family and from many other people struggling financially, is that they have this complex of kind of superiority. They want to live a lifestyle that they can't afford. Because borrowed money has helped them to reach that level, now for them to come down to a lower level so that they can pay off their debt and then get rid of it and stay on that level so that they can build savings, that's very difficult for them to accept. Extremely difficult for them to accept because they've got that superiority complex. I'm not sure if that's really the right phrase for it, but I think it kind of describes well what I'm referring to. They are so concerned about impressing others and feeling important that they almost feel like they're going to be stripped of that importance if they no longer live in a certain area, don't drive that fancy car, don't go on vacations and so forth and buy these clothes even though their closet is completely filled and they don't really need new clothes, but they just keep buying to impress others. And those types of people struggle to let go of these things that they've financed. And I also did, I went from a sports BMW to a luxury BMW, which was more expensive, to living to a better neighborhood and, putting everything onto my credit card, just vacations and so forth and whatever else that I wanted. It's just difficult to make that change. And for me, and really, if you want to overcome status and comfort and stop living in the superiority complex that you've got, wanting to feel important, needing to feel important, the big change, the big shift for me came only once I'd hit rock bottom. But I don't want that for you. I don't want you to lose everything like I did. Because the more you lose, the more difficult it's going to be to recover. It's going to take longer. It's going to be a bigger mental toll. The older you are, the more debt that you've got. Yeah, you could say I was fortunate for it to happen to me when I was in my early 30s because I had so much time to recover. And when I lost everything and became homeless, nobody knew about it. I wasn't in touch with my friends. I didn't keep in touch with my family. I owned a business just before that, so I was busy. I wasn't, I was just focused on that. So in a way, it was easier for me then, let's say, for a man who's 50 years old and who's got children and his family knows his whereabouts, to cope with that drastic change. It would just completely, finish him off. And I don't want you guys to get to that stage. The solution is to make that change right now, before it gets bad, before it gets really dire, before you keep losing and losing and losing until you've got nothing else to lose. And you're like, oh man, how did this happen? And like I spoke about in a previous stream, I mentioned that a person hardly ever fails financially overnight. It's a gradual process that happens over weeks, over months, over years. And it's sort of just like a decline, sort of like gaining weight. You gain a couple of kilos and you're like, oh man, I've gained some weight. And you become used to that weight. And you gain more and you become used to now that new level, that new broadness, I suppose. And then you just keep gaining and gaining. And next thing you know, a year down the line, like, how did I become so big? It was a gradual process that happened. It's not like you gained 10 kilos overnight or over a week. So the same thing happens with finances, by the way. You just keep losing and losing. You keep adding more and more debt over months and over years. And that's how you gradually keep going down until you get to a point where you can no longer finance debt, where you're up to your eyeballs in it. You can't make the minimum payments. And you're like, what now? And what's even worse, and which is exactly what happened to me, is I had all of this debt. I had no savings. And then I got fired from the nightclub that I started. So no income. So can you imagine that? No income, tremendous amount of debt, no savings. Couldn't pay rent, got kicked out. And then I had with nowhere else to go, got into my car, parked my car on the side of the road and lived in it. And considering that more than 50% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, they are 1 month away from being on the street. They don't really understand how dire their situation is. And I think you're going to do yourself a massive favor if you sit down and you analyze your finances. I mean, to the last detail. You make a cash flow statement, which is your actual expenses, not budget, which is a forecast. Cash flow statements are actual figures that you've compiled through capturing receipts. So you need to have that discussion, as uncomfortable as it is, with yourself. For me, what's really worked is to just look at things for the way they are, not sugarcoat them. That's not helping me. As difficult as it is, I need to confront this. as it is, and accept that this is the situation. Because the sooner I accept it, the sooner I confront the situation, the sooner I can start working towards fixing it. And that's really what it's about, to fix your situation as soon as possible so it doesn't get any worse. Jeez, time goes by so quickly. I've already been speaking for 20 minutes, but I guess, with this topic, it's just there's so much that you can discuss, and we can just talk about it. But really, what it comes down to at the end of the day is letting go of what people are going to say and think about you. That's linked to status, because you want them to be impressed by your so-called success, even though most of your material possessions are financed. And you need to become uncomfortable, because it's status and comfort that's motivating you to buy all of these things that you can't afford. So once you become uncomfortable, which really means lowering your level of living, lowering your standard of living by decreasing your expenses. So your life will be slightly different. You're no longer going to buy those things that you were buying before, which you really didn't need. You're going to eliminate certain expenses so that you've got more money at the end of the month to dedicate to debt, so that you can pay it off as quickly as possible, and then move on to building a healthy savings account, and then eventually go into investments. So let go of status, become uncomfortable, stop caring about what other people are going to think about you. The only person that you need to impress is yourself. When you hit rock bottom, as I mentioned, you just completely stop caring about what others think and say about you. But don't let that happen until when you've hit rock bottom. Make the change right now, so that you don't keep going down any further, so that the hole doesn't become deeper. And the reason, one of the key reasons to get out of debt right now, so that your recovery is as easier as possible. I think that's key, because if you are, you're not so dire that you don't know how to get out of this hole, you're more likely to embrace that journey. There's a lot of people who just think that, you know what, I am so far down this road that there's just no ways that I could stop taking out debt. And that's, to fund their lifestyle and to keep carrying on. They just don't know how they're going to survive. And that's one of the major decisions that I made that helped me to become financially free. You can imagine, I was homeless. I hardly had any food and a mountain of debt. For me to make that decision to take out any more debt to survive was a major occurrence. But I made it because I knew that I was not going to get out of debt by having more debt. I mean, it's common sense, obviously, but when people are in that situation where they're struggling to survive, they're going to look for a solution. And I just said, you know what, for me, the solution is not to take out more debt. I don't want those problems. I don't want debt, which is a short-term solution with long-term repercussions, because you get to enjoy that kind of grace period where you can breathe easy. I've got this finance money that the bank is giving me. I've got some room to breathe. But then when the payments start coming through, once after I've spent that money and now I need to repay this debt, that's when it catches up to you. And that's when you're even in more trouble, in bigger trouble than what you were before you took out that finance. So the best thing, obviously, that happened to me is stop taking out loans, and I just started paying off that debt. Obviously, status and comfort were not even a thing that I thought about, because I just didn't care. I had nothing to lose. I had absolutely nothing to lose. And that's a great mindset to have. And you don't have to be homeless to have that mindset. So get into that mindset where you just don't care about what others think of you. became uncomfortable, started paying off the debt, and then it took me a couple of years, no doubt. It wasn't easy, but I was able to get several streams of income after I had actually reduced my expenses, and then sort of the income just grew from there as well. So now I had a larger income, less expenses, no extra debt that I'd taken out, and I was just reducing this balance of the debt that I had every single month. And I got rid of the one debt, and I went for the other, got rid of it, and just gave me motivation. I saw, my last debt was a personal loan, which was the biggest portion of my total debt. And it was daunting. I thought, how the heck am I going to pay this off? This is the big amount. And my income throughout the years just kept growing until I got a good paying job. And with one lump sum in November 2022, I paid it off. The chains around my neck came off. I could breathe easier. That tension in my temples, in my head, had dissipated. The phone calls from lawyers stopped. I slept better at night. I lived a completely different life. And I made a commitment to myself that I will never, ever go into debt again, because I cannot have financial freedom if I'm in debt. How am I supposed to have savings? That even if I have savings while in debt, well, that money actually belongs to my creditors. I need to pay them, even though I've kind of got it, but it's a temporary savings account that needs to be eventually allocated to debt. So I didn't want that for myself. I didn't want to be in a perpetual cycle of debt. I wanted financial freedom. And it happened when I stopped caring about what others thought of me. I focused on myself, got rid of the debt, built up the savings, went into investments. The investments grew as well, thank God. And now I just live a completely different life. And you too can live that life as well. But it's a decision to forget about status and comfort, become uncomfortable, and just work towards increasing your income, decreasing your expenses, paying off your debt, and then building up savings. And then you take it from there. It's really as simple as that. This is not the first time that you've heard this, you know it. But what I'm really trying to get through to you is the importance of making that change as soon as possible. And the more extreme your change is, the quicker you're going to recover. That's the big part that you need to really comprehend and you really need to grasp, is that I adopted the minimalist lifestyle. So I went crazy. I just eliminated all of the expenses that I didn't need for survival, even the ones that I needed for survival, such as food. I went for cheaper food. I tried to save on electricity wherever I could, and so forth. And then all these other non-essential expenses went out the window. So I went at it hardcore, and I kept up that lifestyle for years. And to a great extent, I still live that lifestyle, because it's become my new normal. This is the life that I live now, and I'm fine with it. I don't need these things that I needed before. Even back then, I didn't really need them, but I needed to feed my ego. I needed to feed that comfort so badly. And because I didn't have the money to buy these things that gave me status and comfort, I financed them. And that's when the problems came. And because you get that status and comfort through finance, through loans, you enjoy that feeling. It feels good for others to be impressed by your material possessions, which are actually owned by the bank. You crave that ego boost. You crave that comfort even more. And then you take out more debt. And it's just a hole that digs itself deeper. It's just kind of like a whirlwind that keeps going down, sucks you in like quicksand, and your problems just get worse and worse. And really, the solution is just to decide to cut all of that off, to make that change. And it should start today. It should start now. It's up to you. You can literally, after this live stream, just decide that you're going to make a change, and you start by compiling that cash flow statement to get rid of the unnecessary expenses and reduce even the necessary expenses. Stop taking out debt, focus on paying off your current debt. Then you're going to build savings and eventually go into investments. So thank you so much for joining me for this live stream. I think we've kind of like really zoomed in on this topic of the 2 factors that are causing you financial distress, status and comfort. We've really spoken about it. You get the gist of it. We went into details. You know what's up. You know what you need to do. It's now up to you to decide if you're going to make that change so that you can be financially free. Thanks for joining me. Tomorrow, as always, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. I'm here, Eastern Standard Time. Catch me on the live stream, and I will see you tomorrow then. Bye-bye.